sponsored by Hudson Bond Real Estate for this and future generations, assuring you of the best professional real estate service at all times.
End of the week, Friday night, time to settle back and enjoy Mansfields Melbourne, where we take you around the city, meet some interesting people, and a lively half-hour discussion of the news in and around town. Tonight we'll be discussing the role of wigs in both beauty and health, and also out from Waverley is the expression A for maths. This is a story that'll astound you later. But we have a mystery guest that even I don't know who it is. We'll find out about them shortly. But first, the Melbourne local news with Claire Halliday. Thanks, Claire.
Welcome to the local news on Mansfields Melbourne. I'm Claire Halliday. One of the largest Knox Council fields ever has lined up for the March 15th elections. Michelle Klein of the Knox Post newspaper says 36 candidates have submitted their names for the poll. There will be an election in each of Knox Council's 9 wards. About 95,000 residents will vote in that municipality. And now a sell-off of Maroondah Council's land has begun, according to reporter John Cook of the Maroondah Post newspaper. 5 lots went under the hammer this month, as will another 27 parcels. The council hopes to generate about $800,000 with the sales. In other news, illegal roadside advertising signs throughout the Yarra Ranges Shire that do not have a council permit may be confiscated. Christine Bannister of the Yarra Ranges Post newspaper says bylaws officers will crack down on the illegal signs. Apart from the safety issue, the council is concerned that some hastily made signs are spoiling the view of tourists to the upper Yarra Valley and the Dandenong Ranges. Melton could lose millions of dollars in rates under a boundary review proposed by the state government. The Melton Independent newspaper says Melton could lose the developing suburb of Hillside if the boundaries are reviewed. And that's all for the news tonight, so back to you, Bruce.
Thanks, Claire, very much for the Melbourne local news. I'd like you to meet Anna Allison and Jana Vint, who have joined me. But as far as wigs are concerned, it's a very different role over the centuries that they've played, and in 1997, wigs play a cosmetic role, and a very important one in a health sense. And to discuss with us wigs, we have Mim from Suzanne's Wigs in Collins Street. Mim, thank you for joining us on Mansfields Melbourne.
Thank you, Bruce.
Tell us about well, where did Suzanne's Wigs begin?
Right. Suzanne came from Europe. She studied wigs for most of her life. She's an expert on wigs. She actually came in 1989 to Melbourne and set up Suzanne Wigs in Sydney. She revolutionised wigs for Australia because she's provided a product that was not available at all. They're excellent wigs. They're made of excellent fibres, and
and who makes up your clients, Mim?
Well, most of our we do cater for fashion, the fashion area, but most of our clients are people that buy wigs for medical reasons.
Right.
Either because of alopecia or cancer treatment like chemotherapy or radiation therapy. We're very closely aligned with the societies, the Cancer Society and the Alopecia Society.
I see.
So we work along with them.
So would your clients be, would they be elderly or middle-aged, or do you also cater for the younger?
Yes, we have children's wigs. We mainly deal with female wigs, but we have them for children who often have, unfortunately, leukemia and require a wig. Right through to elderly women that may require a grey wig. We cater for all age groups.
Suzanne's Wigs, where are they located in Australia?
Yes, they're located in Melbourne, Brisbane, and they're also in the head office is Sydney in Elizabeth Street. But the office in Melbourne is 227 Collins Street, which is next door to Qantas on the 4th floor.
Wigs have played a very important role over the years, haven't they?
They certainly have.
The French Revolution, the Madame Pompadour wigs, and even wigs worn by men.
That's right.
Over the years, barristers and, and judges. So what is the, I see the models here, well not really models, but they're two different types of styling, aren't they?
Yes, well the one on the right, which is, sorry, the one, yes, the one on the right is a wig for a younger person.
Right.
That wig is made up of a mixture of human hair and synthetic hair. So we call that a blend.
Right.
It's a 50-50 blend. The one on the other side, the grey wig, that's a wig for an older person. That wig is 100% acrylic, but it's called Allura. It's a quality acrylic that moves, looks, moves, and feels like one's own.
And what is this one?
I won't say, but it looks like
What
a
about
choice.
men's wigs? Do you do any men at all?
We do, for medical reasons, on rare occasions.
I see.
But generally, we cater for women.
So really, it's wigs that not only are for the beauty conscious, but for health reasons. Suzanne's Wigs, this is Mim from Collins Street. The address again?
Yes, 227 Collins Street, 4th floor.
All right, that's given a lot of hope to a lot of people, I'm sure, who are, well, a little bit distressed. And if you are, as far as your hair is concerned, go to the experts, and that's Suzanne's Wigs in Collins Street. Thanks very much.
Thank you,
indeed.
Bruce. Thank you.
Now to Rick Milne, and a look at a little paraphernalia. Well, the end of the first week of Mansfields Melbourne, and it's been really good, especially with my old mate Rick Milne every day. You've certainly made a welter of it, haven't you, Rick?
Oh, have I ever? Boy,
Yeah.
coming in here 5 nights, it's amazing.
You're wearing the same shirt.
Well, I thought for continuity I'd do
Of
that.
course, of course. Now, we've talked about pop stars, we've talked about the Kiss and all that. Let's look at the recording industry, which you've got to say that Elvis Presley was a big contributor.
Oh, #1 rock and roller, no doubt about that. And in fact, a very interesting story about the record company that he first recorded for, a little company in Memphis, Tennessee, which at the time was only about as big as Adelaide, very small town. And a fellow started up his own record company called Sun Records. Sam Phillips was his name.
Right.
And I've got some Sun Records, which I thought I'd bring in. They're not good. These are the magic ones. Carl Perkins, who was a big star with blue suede shoes and so forth.
Yes.
There it is.
Now, these are worth, well, it's going to surprise you what they are worth, but we will show some of them.
Money.
This. Can't just make that out.
No, well, I'll do it for you. But no, I need my glasses as well. This is Little Milton, who was a black performer.
Jerry Lee Lewis's Great
right.
Balls of Fire.
Yep.
Charlie
Feathers.
Feathers. Now, the reason why the little hole in the centre there, Rick?
That's the way they had made them in America,
Right.
Bruce, and the spindle had a rather large hole in the centre. This is the key, though. This is the one.
This is Elvis Presley, You're a Heartbreaker. Now get in on that and we'll show the value of that.
The very first record that Elvis, one of 5 records he put on the Sun label, never less than $1,500 for a Sun record.
That is worth $1,500. If you ever see that, You're a Heartbreaker, and on the backside, Milk Blue Boogie.
Milk Cow Blues Boogie, yes, that's right.
Now, what are these little booklets here, Rick?
These came out in the UK. We'll talk about Elvis a little bit now. They came out in the UK, and there are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of those. They were his fan club magazine and came out for very many years. Strangely enough, they don't sell for a great price. They sell for only $2 or $3 or $4 a piece because they sold so many. They were hugely, hugely successful. But this newspaper on the desk here is immensely valuable. That's the newspaper from the Memphis Press Scimitar the day after Elvis died.
Oh,
and I happened to be there at the time and bought one, and that now sells for about $4,000 or $5,000.
Is that right?
The original newspaper from that day.
There's a newspaper worth $4,000 from the very birthplace where he lived.
Exactly, that's where he died, in Memphis, Tennessee, and that's the newspaper from the
Well,
following
he
day.
lived and died. Let's have
Yeah,
another
that's
look
it.
at that. A lonely life ends on Elvis Presley Boulevard. And he was a sad man at the end, wasn't he?
He was a
sorry
haunted
figure.
man at the end, yes he was, and very heavily overweight, and just his life was very sad, because he simply had no privacy, none at
No.
all, no privacy at
It's
all.
like Ash Long, our producer. But thanks very much for coming in
I've
this
had a
week.
good
It's been lovely.
Yeah,
What are you
enjoyed
doing
it.
this weekend?
Well, as a matter of fact, I'm going to Tamworth. We're going up to open a big bottle and collectibles there.
Oh, great.
And we'll be up there for 5 or 6 days.
That's your favourite town outside Brisbane, isn't it?
I love it. I love the
And
town.
Melbourne as well, I hope.
Oh, Melbourne, #1.
Thank you. Rick Milne on Mansfields Melbourne. Thanks,
Good on you,
Rick.
Bruce.
St Kilda Pier, Monday the 6th of May 1901. Major Joseph Perry of the Salvation Army is cranking the camera on the arrival of the paddle steamer Hygeia, conveying the Duke of York and the Duchess, later King George V and Queen Mary, from their royal yacht out on the bay. Paddle steamers of the type of the Hygeia dominated bay transportation until their demise in the 1930s. Walking down the gangway, the Duke and Duchess stepped onto a red carpet, laid the full length of the pier, and they were received by a welcoming committee, including our first Governor-General, Lord Hopetoun, the Marquess of Linlithgow, who you'll see wearing the feathered cap. Other guests were presented, including Australia's first Prime Minister, Edmund Barton, who's in the distance on the right. This was no ordinary royal visit. They were here to open Australia's first federal parliament at the exhibition buildings, bringing Australia's colonial days to a close. The Duke inspected a Victorian colonial artillery brigade before moving off down the long red carpet leading back to the shore. The government commissioned this film from the Salvation Army as a memento of Australia's birth. By 1901, the camera could load up to 6 minutes of film for these serious assignments, and it could pan from side to side to follow the action. Major Perry periodically stopped and started the film to eliminate pauses in this action, introducing the first crude form of film editing. At the top of the picture, you'll see Point Ormond in the distance, where H.W. Genvey set up one of the first Australian radio transmitters to communicate with the Duke's departing ships about 10 days after this film was taken. Towards the end of this pier coverage, you get a distant view of the St Kilda Esplanade and Baths, and a very brief glimpse of the temporary commemorative arch built over the pier. The first of many of these arches built along the Duke's path during this landmark tour. Meanwhile, the Mayor and Aldermen of Melbourne waited under a temporary commemorative arch built at Prince's Bridge, near the present site of Batman Avenue. Contingents of each of the state colonial militia, soon to be a federated Australian army, escorted the vice-regal carriages. Many of these soldiers had seen action in the recent Boer War. The royal escorts, each arranged in proper order of rank, reflected the sharply class-structured society of this period. The first carriage contained Lady Mary Lygon and Sir John Anderson, a representative of the British Colonial Office.
marvellous footage, isn't it, from the National Film and Sound Archive. We looked at St Kilda there 100 years ago. The only guest that I don't know about this week, and it's Friday, we've spoken to so many during the week, Ken Brodziak and so many. The only clue about our next guest is that it comes from the ocean and is found on the sand. It is not a beached whale, so I will just ask you to speak and give me some idea of who you are.
Well, you know, not so familiar with the face, but you would know the voice after 6 years.
Perhaps if we saw the face, it might be interesting. Who are you? No, Deanna. Deanna?
Your first fan.
You were too.
Numero uno.
When I did the breakfast program, both on 3AW and 3AK, and then later on 3AW's Nightline, Deanna was our first guest. Now, you must listen to the station 24 hours a day.
Oh, yes, I do. I haven't had a year's sleep for, what is it, be about 9 years now. That's why I'm looking, I'm only 21, actually, but you know, I'm just looking a bit rough around the edges.
Did you do radio in Tasmania, Deanna?
Yes, I worked with Barry Ferber, Philip's mate, and we did the first talkback show in Tasmania in 1967.
Right.
And there was no such thing as talkback. And so Brazen self bowled into 7HT and said, "What you need is a talkback program." And Barry said, "All right, you can do it. Turn up tomorrow." And so we did it for the year. I was only there for a year.
Baptism of fire, though, wasn't it?
It was a baptism of fire, but it was terrific. But it wasn't flash like you do it now. It was, you couldn't record live to air. I'd go on and do my editorial, as you do. And then I'd have to rush to another studio and take the calls, which would be recorded.
Oh, I see.
And then we'd have to go back and play them live to air because you weren't allowed. I thought it was technical, but apparently it was a legal thing, that you couldn't play things straight to air. You had to pre-record them, and because you didn't have the dump button facilities. Barry was always winding records backwards, and there was none of that clever stuff you do now.
In the early talkback, there was always a bip every 7 or 10 seconds to alert the listener that they were on the air, because it was illegal for them not to know that they were on air.
Well, they knew they were on air, but somehow, I don't know, 7HT. And then I used to do a bit of telly on Channel 6, and we had those old cameras that were rejects from Melbourne. And so you had to have your face done up, and you looked like a Red Indian. Is that politically correct?
That's all right.
Because they'd faded so much that the colour wouldn't pick up.
Yeah. Now, what is there that attracts you to talkback radio? You love it as both a listener and a participant.
It's the networking. It's the fact that I have made so many friends, and I mean really sincere friends. It's the extended family, and so many people miss out on that now because their children get married and they move to the outer suburbs or go for a job interstate or go overseas. And I have friends that I have made that are real friends, and I have never actually seen them. We've exchanged letters, photographs, phone calls, and they are true friends that you can tell all your secrets to because you don't know their family and friends. So it's a whole thing. And if you need somebody and you don't want to ring your best friend because you think, oh God, not more of the same, you can ring one of these people and they'll help you.
Yeah.
They'll be there and they're interested.
See, sometimes your own family, because they're your own family, tend to not let you down, but you get easily disappointed. With the anonymity that you have with the network that you say, you don't know each other that well.
Yes.
So the only thing you have in common is the bond of friendship and care.
That's right. That's right. And if someone rings you in and says, "Someone ring me, I need help."
Exactly.
You dial them, and you'll never meet them. You may speak to them once or twice. You'll never hear from them again. But you've linked up with somebody, another person. And
I've found that on the Nightline program, and we do get on 3AW at night very severe, troubled people. I mean, the night is the worst enemy for a lot of people. But I just love the fact that I can say, don't ring a counsellor, which they probably will eventually, but I love to say, look, our Nightline of network family will come to your assistance, and you do. People, I don't want to mention anyone in particular, but they know who they are. Thanks for coming along and being our special guest, Deanna. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce.
The mystery woman from Portsea, Deanna. More on Mansfields Melbourne shortly. If if you'd like to have your children's skills greatly improved, A for Maths learning centres around Melbourne are being established to help your child. And with us today from Mount Waverley is Julie Greetham, who is this month celebrating the first birthday of her A for Maths Learning Centre. Congratulations.
Thank you, Bruce. Thank you very much.
A for Maths. A for Maths means the score in maths.
That's right, it does. Yes, that's exactly right. That's how we get our name.
How long has A for Maths been going?
The A for Maths Learning Centres have been around for 3 years. We set the first one up here in Victoria 12 months ago in Melbourne, in Mount Waverley. There's 5 of them in Sydney, and there's 3 now in Victoria. There's one in ours in Mount Waverley, one in Blackburn and one in Greensborough.
Now, I know as a kid that my most unfavourite subject at school was maths,
right.
and I always got a B for maths.
Right.
What do you do with a child? I bring my child in, he's, what, 10, 12 years of age?
Right.
And doing very badly at school.
Okay, what we do, first of all, we do a maths assessment to find out what his strengths are and what his weaknesses are, and that gives us a starting point. We would take him through the system through that. We use what we call a multi-sensory approach to teaching mathematics, and it's using audio tapes, textbooks, computers, plus coaches like myself who help the children on a one-to-one basis. The tapes and books are owned by the students, so they're taken home each week. So this means that they spend time in the learning centre, and also they can have the professional instruction at home as well. So they can continue with their learning there as well.
It's so important because if a child loathes maths, or any topic, but maths more importantly, it can alter their whole look on life. School becomes a drudge.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And that's something that we do at A for Maths, is that we not only improve their maths skills, but we work on their self-confidence and try and motivate them, to encourage them to learn. And of course, I mean, when kids are happy and motivated, they learn so much better, don't they?
Tell me, Julie, have you ever come across a pupil or student that just, the poor kid just doesn't know how to add up or subtract?
No, never. No, our learning system suits all children. We have some children that have got learning disabilities, but they're still able to learn because of the system we use, using tapes, the books and the computers. Because not everyone learns by reading. Some children learn by listening, some children learn by being shown what to do. So we combine all of those senses, if you like.
You call yourself a coach. That's rather interesting.
That's
because
right.
you're a bit of a leader of a team.
That's exactly right, and that's what we have on our T-shirts, and all our coaches in the centre all have a recognisable uniform so that the kids... but it's to be a fun place for the children to be as well.
Well, you've, I think, breathed a bit of relief to a lot of parents out there who may be having real problems in the early stages of the year. A for Maths Learning Centre is on the first floor at 6 to 8 Hamilton Place, Mount Waverley, and the number is 9888 3839. But look up A for Maths, I presume, in the white pages.
That's right. That's
Julie,
correct.
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Bruce. Thank
Julie,
you.
This is Mansfields Melbourne. One of the highlights of Mansfields Melbourne is to talk to the winners of our city. Philip Webb is a businessman from Doncaster who's had to overcome a great deal of adversity to find the success that he's enjoying today. The immediate past president of the Real Estate Institute of Victoria, our special guest now, is Philip Webb. Hello, Philip. Welcome to Mansfields Melbourne.
Thank you, Bruce.
I think we all love success stories, but particularly there's something special about people who have to overcome something to get there, and you're no exception in that department.
Well, we had a fairly tough time for a while, but that's a few years ago now.
Is this a sickness, a polio you had?
Well, it was called polyneuritis, and it was fairly new at the time. Not many people had had it, so I had to sort of suffer and go through it for a while, but got over it now.
And you rebuilt a business?
Yes, it was. I didn't work for 3 years, so it was a long time to be out of business, but we got back into it a few years ago, and it's quite successful again now.
Now, you live and work around the Doncaster area.
That's right.
Still in real estate?
Yes, my office is in the Doncaster area, and we've been in that area all the time, so I know it pretty well. I live slightly outside that area, but it's a great part of the world.
Philip Webb, I remember when the Doncaster shopping town was just being built, when in fact there were orchards out there through Doncaster.
Well, that was about the time that I started in real estate,
really?
so I've seen a lot of change.
Yeah. I was shown 2 houses when we were first married. One was in Ivanhoe and the other was a brand new house just behind Doncaster shopping town. Because that was all developing then. It was, you'd be probably aware of all that.
Oh, certainly. A lot of new estates, a lot of fruit trees coming down.
Yeah.
A lot of people coming to the area, and a lot of people came to the area because of Shopping Town.
Yeah. I'd like you, just off the top of your head, to just give it a bit of an inspirational talk. Well, not a sermon or anything, but just a few words to encourage the young people who might be feeling a bit left out of life, that that a person like yourself who's overcome a disability, you can make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've got three little sayings that are very important to me, and in fact I've said them many thousands of times. The first one that's important to me is that failure is not falling down, it's staying down, and that's pretty big to me. And the one that you know, I also like as well is if it is to be, it's up to me. And I think that's pretty important. And then if the kids are having a tough time, well, obviously it's up to them to you know, try and make a difference themselves.
Yeah.
And you can do it.
Well, you're an example of that, overcoming paralysis, rebuilding a business, and still going strong at Philip Webb Real Estate, 989 Doncaster Road, Doncaster East. Thank you very much indeed, Phil, for coming.
Thank you, Bruce.
Good on you.
Great.
And that's our week. What a week it's been on Mansfields Melbourne. On Optus, we've had Lillian Frank in as a guest, Bruce Ruxton, Dan Webb, Rick Milne, and a range of interesting people from all over Melbourne, like the winners, including Philip Webb. Hope you can join us next Monday night when we reopen the books again for Mansfields Melbourne. On behalf of us all, good night.